There we go. Now it should be stopped. And things should, in theory, work. Golly. Golly. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. One thing after another today, I'll tell you what. How is everybody? How's everybody? I saw you guys were talking about tacos. I'm low-key jelly. I love me some tacos. Do. Sorry, I'm doing my Hassan. Oh, sorry, my Hassan stream would be this. Pretty good, right? Money, please. But give me money, and then I'm gonna complain about you not giving me more. I think that's the play. Isn't that the the full professional streamer thing that you do? Oh man. Yeah, now we need a YouTube video. Yeah, I need to find a successful YouTube video by a talented creator, and I need to just hit play and then offer no commentary, no feedback, and then just move on. Yeah, you're right. Anyway. Oh man, that's pretty funny. Yeah, should we talk about that real quick? Yeah. Oh, and eat lunch while we do it. Yeah, very loudly smacking into the microphone. That's all part of the meta. It's all part of the meta. Should we touch on this real quick? Hold on. This just dropped like out of nowhere. Nobody saw this coming. New segment. There you go, Jacob. So Marvel just came out of nowhere dropping this. It is a hero shooter co-op combat, whatever you'd call it. And so it basically looks like it's Overwatch, but with Marvel's characters. Which is surprising. I mean, it makes sense. I'm kind of surprised we haven't had this before. It doesn't look bad either. Like, that ability is super cool. That's super cool. So like it looks fine. I mean, it's tough to overcome the entrenched nature of games like Overwatch or you know, Counter-Strike or whatever other, you know, co-op game you might be talking about, because those types of games are ones that people play for years. And so even if this one looks pretty good or plays really well, you're still having to pull players away from those other games, which is inherently very, very difficult. They could still do it. It could be successful, especially because Overwatch has been really floundering and struggling, but time will tell. These games are not easy to pull off. Like, for one to pop off and become successful and well-known is extremely rare, which is why you can only probably name one or two, even though there's been dozens and dozens released. Is it too late for an Overwatch clone? I would have thought so, but apparently Overwatch 2 has been struggling a ton, and a lot of their players are very frustrated with the current state of the game and how it's being run and everything. And they're doing some pretty aggressive things, like starting, I think they said at the next season for Overwatch 2, they're going to make all of the heroes available to everybody for free. So you won't have to buy them anymore. And so it used to be, I think each character was like, what, $20, something like that. So you needed to pay $20 to get the newest character, and then like months and months or a year after or something, it was going to be made free to people after that. But now they're making all of the characters free. It's all purely monetized through cosmetics, and that's it. And then they also fully canceled all the was it PvE stuff that they had set up. I think they were working on a couple like kind of cool different modes, but all of that got canceled. So who knows what it eventually actually like runs like and looks like when all is said and done, when they're trying to change it and reinvent it. But I think there is an opportunity. Just like with Fortnite, people forget Fortnite came at a time when PUBG was at the peak. I mean, everybody was playing PUBG. It was the king of the internet at the time. Everybody was playing it. Everybody was talking about it. And then Fortnite came in, offered a build mode and a much more polished game. I mean, it was way more polished. It wasn't even close. I mean, PUBG barely ran to begin with. But it came in at a good time when people were frustrated with PUBG and saw an opportunity to slide in with a game that kind of fit into the grooves that PUBG didn't fill. And they did a good job. And of course, like Fortnite now is way bigger than PUBG. So there's an opportunity, I think, to take Overwatch fans. But the thing with Marvel specifically is that Marvel does have a lot of brand recognition. A lot of their characters are extremely well known. But there's also a lot of people that are just kind of generally burnt out on superhero stuff. And I'm one of them. And so maybe this is successful, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm not like, some people are like, oh, this is going to kill Overwatch once and for all. I'm not convinced of that. I think it's probably, pretty exciting for a week or two. Some people are going to love it, but you need so many players playing these games for like multiple hours a day on average. Like you need the average player to be playing like an hour and a half a day and spending a lot on cosmetics to make these games viable. And there's other things, like if you don't have enough players in the servers, then matchmaking takes too long. And so that doesn't really work. There's just, it's way harder to make one of these work than people realize. You need a lot of money. And I just don't know. I don't know. But it is a literal hero team-based PvP shooter. It is literally a hero shooter. So I'll give them that. They stuck to the theme very closely. I'll give them that. So that's happening. Who knows? Some people are saying it's dead on arrival because it has a pretty limited roster of villains. And people are like, no, they need more villains to be viable. I mean, you need a lot of characters. I agree. But I don't know. Marvel and Overwatch, trillions of dollars. Well, I don't know why Marvel wouldn't just go to Overwatch's team at Blizzard and offer to give them rights to like Marvel skins. Like you could do all sorts of crazy stuff where you have everybody, like you could do a Moira Doctor Strange skin, you could do a like Malga Hulk skin, you could do all sorts of things. You could do a Reinhardt, like, it would be Reinhardt more like Thor skin. So it would be like a big axe or hammer, with the Reinhardt hammer. So there's options. It's workable. But I mean, something like that I think would make significantly more money than this. I would guess. So yeah, that's happening. This also made me audibly laugh out loud and choke on my drink when I read it. So in case you missed it, this kind of came out of nowhere, but somebody reported, quote from Bethesda, "We are in development on the next chapter, The Elder Scrolls 6. Even now, returning to Tamriel and playing early builds has us filled with the same joy, excitement, and promise of adventure." Now that sounds pretty wholesome at first, right? I mean, on the one hand, it's notable, like, wow, it's playable. They have a playable build. That's crazy, right? On the other hand, you're also like, they're already moving on from Starfield. Yeah, I'm sure they have a team working on the DLC and everything, but like it just came out. I'm kind of surprised. I would have thought that they would have taken some more time, but whatever. But then I read this. This is big. This may be the very first time a Bethesda game has ever been in a playable state. Oh, man. It's pretty funny. I'll give them that. Yeah, it is probably the first time. Yeah, it's I hope it's awesome, but I mean you can see in the comment section who are they kidding won't even be in a playable state when it releases. Man, I just hope Starfield isn't an indication of where Bethesda is taking the Elder Scrolls. They severely need new writers and the ability to focus on quality over quantity. Wait, really? Damn, even Starfield isn't that far in development.
Brandon Reyes donated $4.99 through Super Chat. FPS podcast got to play Judas. I gotta say that game looks crazy.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about it. I got the clips pulled up. I watched the Jeff Keighley thing. I watched the FPS thing, and I watched the separate video that they did. I think IGN did. So I've watched all of it. I've dug into Judas. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. You better believe it. It's gonna be a whole thing. You better believe it. Also, shout out to Luis Montorio. Thank you. 4 months. Appreciate you. Okay. Yeah, they need to engine. Overall, like, the problem for them is that it's going to be mighty hard to shake these negative perceptions. Because you guys remember I did the survey of the game, or of players. Like, I wonder if I can pull up that community post. Hold on, let me pull it up, because then we can actually like just straight up see what it is. Community post, community. Where's? Oh yeah, this is it. Look at this. The full screen. Look at this. So I asked the community 3 months ago. So after the dust had settled, I asked everybody, after Starfield, are you more or less excited for the Elder Scrolls 6? And 61% of players said they're less excited. 33 said indifferent, didn't really change. Only 6% said they played Starfield and were more excited after playing Starfield, which it doesn't take a genius to figure out. Like, when you play a game from a studio, you should play it and be like, wow, I can't wait to see what they do next. And that's where most people are with, like, you play Red Dead 2 and you're like, oh my God, can you imagine what GTA 6 is going to be like? Or you go and play, like, I don't know, Cyberpunk 2077 2.0, like with Phantom Liberty and everything. And you're like, okay, it started rough, but with what this is now, I can only imagine what The Witcher 4 is going to be like. You know, you get really, really excited after you play the thing and you know the next thing's going to be better. With this, it's like, this is the opposite of what you want. This is not what you want to see. Players that play Starfield, or at least have been exposed to Starfield, because we can't verify every one of the 72,000 have played it, but players exposed to it, at the very least, only 6% are more excited. And somebody asked, didn't you do this poll already? I did, because I wanted to test to see if it changed. So the original poll, where's the survey portion? Why isn't it? Did YouTube like delete the survey portion? What? Hold on. Why? Or do I just need to refresh? Hold on. Refresh. No, it's just not. Okay. Well, what is happening? There's a poll there, and then when I go to this one now, it's also not giving me the poll, which is the one we were just looking at. Did YouTube just like glitch out on me? This is weird. What is it? Control F5, hard refresh? Nope, that didn't work either. Okay, well, it was about like a third of people on the original poll that said they were more excited. And as time went by, after months and months of exposure to it, playing more of the game, they grew less excited the more they played Starfield and the longer it sat with them. And it was also around 70,000 votes. So at the very least, the consensus seems to be among the average gamer that voted on that survey, over 70,000 people. The consensus is that the more they were exposed to Starfield, the less excited they were for the next game. And overwhelmingly, people are less excited for the sequel than they are indifferent or more excited. And that's a big problem for Bethesda. And most of the frustrations people have can be boiled down to like frustrations with the technology, issues with like the engine, things like that. So I don't know. I am hopeful, but time will tell. I think if they stick with the creation engine, even if they do a lot of work on it, it's going to be a big old uphill battle to overcome these negative perceptions. Big uphill battle. You know?
Alexander donated 750 Icelandic kroner through Super Chat.
Thank you.
IGN did a first preview video on the Dune Awakening MMO. Sounds really promising.
Yeah, we watched the I don't know what they officially called it, but it was like a full showcase thing where they walked through the game. And it seems interesting enough, like, okay, a survival game, but I'm not big into survival games to begin with, so I'm not sure if it's going to be my cup of tea. But at the very least, it seems interesting, and hopefully they find an audience that's excited about it, you know? The thing with Dune is that it's so cinematic and it's also very narrative heavy. So I'm not sure how like a narratively light survival game does in that universe, you know? It might work, but it's almost like, you know, taking The Witcher and being like, yeah, we're making a Witcher survival or crafting game. It's like it might work, but I don't know how much the Witcher franchise or IP adds to it, you know? Why is there such a hard push for graphical enhancement when people literally just want a good story mechanics? I mean, I think most of it is just that right now people feel very underwhelmed with the current performance and graphical fidelity levels of most major releases. And so people are like, we want better. We're paying $500 for a new console. And it feels like we're still playing PS4 and PS3 games like we saw with Rise of the Ronin. So it's like, can we crank the knobs a little bit? Can we make things that really look next generation and feel and play next generation? And so it's all a balancing act. I mean, some studios are leaning heavily into that fidelity. Others are trying to lean more into core mechanics. Some are not achieving high fidelity or solid performance and mechanics. And in that case, you're like, how did this even happen? So there's always going to be a push for higher fidelity stuff also, because it makes the game easier to sell when you have high fidelity footage that you can showcase to people and they're like, oh my God, it looks so good. It looks really good. You know, that goes a long way. CDPR has an amazing engine and still chose to move to Unreal Engine 5. Don't know how Bethesda can stick with the creation engine when it's so flawed. I agree. I mean, that's a great way of putting it. Is it's like CDPR is choosing to move to Unreal Engine, and their Red Engine was so powerful it made one of the most graphically impressive games of all time in the form of Cyberpunk, especially with the Phantom Liberty update with 2.0 and 2.1 and everything. So if they chose to move to Unreal, how does Bethesda get away with it? Like, how does Bethesda think that their tool is more viable than Unreal? And really, as far as I can tell, in every interview I've ever seen of Todd Howard, it comes back to they know the tool, the modding community knows the tool, the creation engine is what I'm meaning. And beyond that, they're able to work very quickly with the creation engine. But I think as we've seen, speed doesn't mean anything if the quality drops significantly and is way below the competition. And this is the thing, like, you've seen those showcases and tech demos of the Unreal Engine 5.4 and everything. You've seen the clips of that new Captain America game. Like, that's the level of fidelity that the Unreal Engine is going to start really pushing. And if Bethesda is still running the creation engine and like the Elder Scrolls 6 is an incremental upgrade over Starfield, I just think it's going to get crucified. Like, it's not even going to be slightly competitive. Because bear in mind, we also have not seen a lot of big open world adventure games on the AAA scale this generation that have been built exclusively for modern hardware. Even some of the biggest games that have released so far on the PS5 and Xbox have been like cross compatible, backwards compatible. Like even God of War Ragnarok was also playable on the PS4, was it not? So like I think once we start seeing those games in the coming years, it's going to blow your mind. Like, I think it's going to blow your mind. It's going to be wild. So, buckle up. Yeah, just imagine once GTA 6 comes out, all anybody's going to be talking about is like, this game doesn't look as good as that game. Like, even after Red Dead 2 came out, everybody was like, it's not as good. It's not as good as that. So, game sucks. Yeah. Oh, yes. Time to stand. We did it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Another Crab's Treasure. Yes, that does ring a bell. Did we look at that? Hold on. Yes, I do remember this. Comes out April 25th. Yeah, it's a Souls-like adventure game, but you play as like a crab. It's pretty goofy. It's funny. Yeah. State of Decay 3 is being made on Unreal Engine 5. Interesting. That'd be sick. I love the State of Decay game. State of Decay, the original game, I played the crap out of back in the day. Super, super cool. The second one didn't connect with me as much, but they've always been super, super clunky. So my hope is that they can polish it up. That'd be great. Let's see. Thank you also to loading. Oh yeah, thank you, Alexander, for that. It did read it. And then Fresh is supposed to read it. It's not reading it yet. I don't know if you heard this, but little indie game called Open Roads is releasing tomorrow, originally announced in 2020, apparently delayed because of studio separation. Studio separation. Oh God. That sounds dramatic. I love it. Open Roads. I just Googled it. Oh, it's like that 2D, 2.5D kind of thing from Annapurna. Yeah, you guys remember this? It's a very interesting art style.
Single mother and her daughter embarking on a journey to uncover their family's shocking secrets.
This seems like one of those games that's going to win like Games for Impact at the Game Awards, and everybody's going to be like, oh, that looks cool, and then forget that it exists, unfortunately. But hopefully the budget's low enough that they can still make a profit on it. It's very niche, but looks very interesting. Yeah, it's got that 2.5D vibe. Interesting. Might be worth checking out. And thank you for the 10. Appreciate you. Thoughts on the new South Park game? I mean, I've not played it yet. I don't know. It seems like probably a bad game, you know? Most reviewers are not liking it, but is it worth like $5? Maybe. I don't know if it's worth 30. But like if I was able to get it on Game Pass, or if I was able to get it with Ubisoft Plus, or if I was able to get it, you know, at no added cost, I'd probably put an hour or two into it. It just doesn't seem like a particularly good game. Which, you know, somebody was saying in the comment section of our video on it, the stream clip, they were like, well, back in the day, we'd have games like this all the time, and we would just rent them from like, what was it? Gamefly, I think is what it was called. So they just like rent it from Gamefly and play it for a weekend and then return it. And it wasn't that big of a deal. Now, when you have to pay $30 up front, it's like, oh, that's a little much. But, you know, hopefully they end up throwing it on Game Pass. It might be worth like a quick download, play for a day or two, and then move on. Yeah. Yeah. Silver Lightning, thank you, my friend. Becoming a member. Is Gamefly still a thing? Hold on. Now I'm going to Google it. Gamefly. Video games by mail. Rent thousands of games and movies. No late fees. Cancel anytime. Look at this. PS5. Rise of the Ronin, Suicide Squad, Snow Day. I mean, we're talking about Snow Day. So, condition new, $30. You can buy it through them. Or, if you rent it, you can choose to keep it for $27.99. 9.5 from Gamefly users. I like it. 9 out of 10. I like this South Park game. It's fun when you can free roam like other games. I wish they would have made it like the other two instead of making it 3D. 10 out of 10. Okay. Well, who knew? Who knew? Gamefly is still a thing. There you go. There you go. I had no idea. Oh, is that GameSpy? Did I pull up GameSpy instead? Did they get me? Hold on. Gamefly. No, I pulled up Gamefly. It's Gamefly. Yeah, I'm not crazy. Gamefly. Maybe they are defunct. I don't know. Never heard of Gamefly till now. I remember seeing the commercials and stuff like all the time. I remember seeing those. I think they were on like Nickelodeon and like Cartoon Network. They used to put the ads up. It's a cool service. I mean, it was like what I remember what I did a couple of times was I rented a few games through Redbox. You remember those Redbox like movie rental kiosk things outside of gas stations or Walmart or wherever else? And I would get the game from Redbox if they had it, but they usually would only have a couple of games, but yeah. Oh yeah, Redbox. Those were the days, man. The best thing was when you would rent a Redbox movie, and then it was too scratched to watch, so you just have to return it and not ever watch it. Yeah. Let's see. I accidentally stole a disc once. How did you accidentally steal a disc? I don't even know how you do it. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, let's shift forward and talk about where is it? No, not that. I talked about that. Oh yeah, we got to talk about the Days Gone devs. We got to talk about that. What I'll ask everybody is to try and keep. I'd like to keep chat on screen during segments and stuff, because then in the VODs and stream clips, everybody can see your lovely messages and stuff. But we got to keep it on topic, okay? I understand you might be upset. I don't think that Dragon's Dogma microtransactions are as bad as Assassin's Creed Odysseys. I understand that might trigger you. But we got to keep it on topic, okay? Like, I'm fine if you disagree. You can say I've got trash opinions. I'm sure I do on many, many things. I, for one, love banana pumpkin scone candles to a fault. That's a trash opinion I have. I'll give you that. But we got to keep it on topic, okay? Got to keep it on topic. That's my my request for everybody, okay? If you can't keep it on topic, mods might have to time you out or whatever. We can disagree. That's totally fine. But we gotta keep it on topic, okay? Speaking of, I'm gonna light the damn candle. I don't care what anyone says. I'm gonna light the candle. It's a beautiful day. A beautiful day. We're gonna light the candle. Even if somebody in the comments is like, Luke, those candles are trash. You should get apple cinnamon. I know apple cinnamon's great too. I can't have them all. You know? Come on. Come on. Okay, this is going to be the heartbreaking thing, okay? This is going to be the heartbreaking thing. Okay. Sorry. New segment. Here we go. You guys know that I think Days Gone is pretty underrated. I actually think that it's a pretty solid game. It's got plenty of clunk, plenty of issues. I would have done it differently if I could go back in time now. But at the time, I gave Days Gone my game of the year because I didn't want to give it to Death Stranding because I thought Death Stranding's story was just so asinine. I couldn't handle it. As much as I like delivering packages and stuff, and found it relaxing, I just could not justify giving it game of the year. So I was like, what else is there? I'll give it to the game I want to see a sequel for the most. That was my metric. So I was like, I'll give Days Gone the Game of the Year award. And over the years, it's kind of become a cult classic. People have actually started to really get stoked on it and want to give it a real chance. And a lot of people have played it. It went to PlayStation Plus for a while. I don't know if it still is there, but people were able to download it for a while. And then it came to PC. A ton of people played it on PC. I think it sold over 1 million copies there alone. So people were really, really into it, right? Which is great. You know, I'm glad to see it. But something happened. There was a big falling out within the developers, like the upper levels of the developers. And they decided to part ways. So John Garvin, who was like the game's director, primary director, he left the studio, Sony Bend. And that was after, he was really frustrated with Sony's response to the game. They apparently didn't give them much support on the back end. They also said they basically got their sequel canned. And then whatever the Days Gone studio was being given to work on next, they were not super thrilled with it. John Garvin also blamed the negative response of the game. Let me pull this up. This is from a year and a half ago. He said that the response and middling reviews were because of tech issues and woke reviewers. And his specific things, what he specifically said was it had reviewers who couldn't be bothered to actually play the game. And 3, it had woke reviewers who couldn't handle a gruff white biker looking at his date's ass. Yeah, and there were a couple of instances that were linked in like the comments. I remember seeing that original post. And they pointed to like clips of reviewers being like, and it's just another gruff white male to play with. And it's disappointing to see Sony take so many steps back in terms of diversity and stuff with this protagonist and his love interest being white bikers. And it's like, yeah, that's a stupid reason to hate on the game. I agree. But as somebody that likes the game, it did have technical issues. It did have some kind of annoying things where he would constantly talk to himself. And, there were issues with the game. I think to dismiss it because the main character is white is absolutely ridiculous. I would agree with him there, but I don't think that's the only reason. But I don't think he's saying it's the only reason it was poorly received, or at least received mixed reactions. But Sony Bend, they distanced themselves from Garvin afterwards, and it caused just a lot of drama. But what has all of this led to? What's the point of all of this? Well, we haven't known what the Days Gone studio has been working on pretty much since. I mean, they worked on a couple of, like, there were rumors they were working with Naughty Dog to help on The Last of Us Online for a bit, but then it wasn't clear if that was absolutely happening. And then after a little while, it was said that they were working on their own game finally. And so we were all like, ooh, interesting. Interesting. Love to see that. But what's happened is there is a job listing that's been posted, okay? This job listing, let's just hear it, okay? It's at PlayStation Global in Bend, Oregon. This is PlayStation Sony Bend Studios, okay, in Bend, Oregon. Beautiful, beautiful place. I mean, it looks just like the game, basically. I mean, they basically just set the game in their hometown. And what this job entails is very, very disheartening as somebody that was interested in this studio a lot. It's basically just a lead project manager job. So in typical respects, it's a leadership role within the studio. They coordinate activities in a scaled, agile environment, working with multiple stakeholders, product owners, craft leads, producers, cross-discipline scrum teams, and work to develop potentially shippable product and increments deliverables each sprint. Basically, the project manager is going to be in charge of supervising development on a project that has multiple phases of deliverables. Now, this could just be a regular game. It could be like, okay, we need to deliver one, like the beta at 0.5. We need to deliver regular updates. We have to ship 1.0, and then we have to do these patches and these side releases and things. But that's not actually what it is. You notice that it specifically mentions working with multiple stakeholders, working to provide potentially shippable product increments and deliverables each sprint. It's starting to sound like individual little deliverables at regular paces, right? That's not super common in the single player space, right? What are the other requirements? Let me show you. Proven experience, 5 years in project management within the gaming industry, a deep understanding of game development cycles, processes, and latest trends with emphasis on live operations. Uh-oh, stinky. You're starting to see what's happening. Yeah. I mean, this basically goes through hands-on game development experience in leadership roles, shipping AAA live service games. Oh. And they just break down in extended detail how this job is for a project manager that needs experience in live service projects specifically, which is quite disappointing. In this article, it also says that ideally, the successful applicant will have, quote, experience redefining studios from traditional boxed product focused game development into live service development studios in a key leadership role. So they're straight up saying the person who gets this job should have a history of transforming a single player development studio that ships traditional boxed products, and they need to be able to transform the studio into a live service one and be in a leadership role during that. So they said that they were working on a game that was going to take like the progress and the tools and open world elements and systems from Days Gone and transform it into a new game, but it seems like now that new game is just going to be a big live service game and nothing more. Really disappointing to see, honestly. Really disappointing. And now it's starting to make sense why so many of the leadership of the studio left. It's starting to make sense why a lot of the like writers and stuff left. They're just moving on, which is just disappointing. I mean, it's too bad. And this is once again another holdover of the Jim Ryan legacy of just taking their single party studios and trying to transform them into live service studios to pump out more live service games. And maybe their live service game ends up being awesome. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it is just Days Gone, but an MMO with these hordes of zombies and stuff. That could be interesting because the hordes were super cool and that was some impressive tech they had. So maybe they do something like that. I don't know, but it's damn disappointing to see that not only are we not getting Days Gone 2 or anything, but the studio is hiring people specifically to transform it into a live service development studio, which is just really frustrating. Yeah, I mean, back in 2021, Sony confirmed that Bend was working on a new IP, which was building on the deep open world systems they developed with Days Gone, which Deep open world systems developed on a single player game. We all thought that meant they were working on a single player game. They were not, apparently. They've been working on a live service game, and they're still hiring to expand that out. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it seems that Sony has chosen to bend studios over and raw dog them with live service stuff, unfortunately, which is just disappointing, unfortunately. Looks like their days are gone. Yeah. Looks like their days gone too. Oh man. Yeah. Ever play Persona? Yeah, Persona 5. I love Persona 5. 4, I've gotten most of the way through. I don't think I finished it. Did I finish it? I don't know if I finished it. I have to think about that. 3, I don't think I finished. I got a little bit through that, but still. Yeah. Yeah. Mafia 4 leaks. I have not heard of this. Mafia 4 leaks. 2 months ago, 2 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago. Where are new leaks? Yeah, I'm not seeing any leaks for it. Who leaked it? Is that on like Insider Gaming or something? Yeah, I don't see anything like that. I don't see anything. CDPR peeps to confirm they're working on Cyberpunk 2. Yeah, that's been known for a bit. They did the whole like presentation where they showed their roadmaps to investors and stuff. They're working on a lot. They have a lot of projects working on. They're working on. Yeah. AV, good to see you, my friend. I pulled up Insider Gaming just to see if Mafia 4 had leaks there or anything, but there's just a story on this. Apparently Ninja found melanoma on his foot, which that's really too bad. Luckily, I mean, skin cancers are extremely survivable. I mean, especially if you catch them early when you're young and stuff. They're very, very, very treatable, very manageable. So wish him the best. That's terrible. Wish him the absolute best. Shinobi Drip, I'm a cancer survivor and I was told I was terminal and here I am cancer free. Congratulations, my friend. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sunscreen up. Sometimes it's also just genetic. Lachlan, when he was born, well, it wasn't right when he was born, but in the months after he was born, he started getting like a little mole kind of on his forearm. Lachlan, if you guys don't know, is my like he's almost, well, he's like 2.5. He's going on 3, but he's my son, and he had like a little mole on his forearm, and it just kept getting like bigger and it was uncomfortable. If he was wearing PJs, he'd scratch at them or tear holes in the PJs to scratch at it. It was just a big problem. So we took him to a dermatologist. They like were able to excise it, send it off for testing and stuff. And they were worried it could be cancerous or precancerous, which is why they cut it off. You know, it's pretty scary having like a 2-year-old who has a potentially precancerous like lesion or I forget what it was called. It was a really long, complicated name for whatever. I think it was like a Spitz nevus or something like that. But anyway, it was a very particular type that they were able to then take off. It didn't look that worrisome. So they were able to take precautions, but everything ended up being fine. But sometimes it is just a purely genetic thing where you just have to be careful with it. So I'd recommend everybody out there, if you are prone, or your family has a history of skin cancer or moles and things like that, or if you work outside a lot, just go to a dermatologist. Your insurance should pay for most of it, assuming you have insurance, and just have them do like an examination just to make sure. Because if you catch it early, it's really not that big of a deal, but you got to catch it. And so you gotta make sure you go and have somebody look at it. But Biohazard, hi Luke, just finished playing Ghost of Tsushima for the first time. Do you think the game is still good today? It was cool. I wonder why we haven't gotten a sequel. Oh, we're getting a sequel. They're working on it right now. It's just takes a while. No, I love it. I love the game. I didn't connect with it at launch, but yeah, it's very good. Once I played it at 60 on the PS5, I was like, oh, I get it now. But it took me until then to really click with it. What was I Googling? Oh, yeah. Okay, so in case you guys missed it, news segment. In case you guys missed it, the one and only man, the myth, the legend, Ken Levine, did a series of interviews. And apparently a few weeks ago, they invited a few select creators out to try, like 4 to 5 hours is what most of them were saying they got to play, of this new Judas game. Now, Judas is the up-and-coming game from Ken Levine's new studio. The original studio that made BioShock was like shut down and reformed into this new studio that he's running. And he's been working on it pretty much for about a decade. I mean, it's been about 10 years he's been working on it. He finished BioShock Infinite, started working on this. He gave a talk at GDC 2014 describing his idea for a new game and how he wanted to do this like narrative Lego thing. Nobody really knew what he was talking about. And then he went off and he's been working for years and years and years. And pretty much because he's Ken Levine, Take-Two, the parent company, has been like, okay, do whatever you need to do. Like, whatever. Take your time. You make great games. Who cares? Just put something out eventually. And it seems like he's starting to get closer to that point. There still is no release date for Judas. They still have not nailed anything down specifically, but they did show off the game for an extended period of time. 4 to 5 hours is quite a while. And they actually did some interviews with Ken Levine, asking him questions about it, which is awesome. I mean, I think the gameplay looks really solid. It looks quite polished for being a game with no release date even still. And I think a lot of people were pretty impressed with what they showed in terms of footage. Now, they talked to, or he invited Jeff Keighley, I forget the name of the other gentleman from IGN, one of the Ryan McCaffrey, is that right? Something like that. But they invited them out, and then they also invited the members of the Friends Per Second podcast out to play the game and talk to Ken Levine about it during extended interviews and stuff. And it's interesting. It's interesting because it seems like they've done a lot of thought on the world, a lot of thought on this ship that you're on, a lot of thought about the narrative and how things kind of overlap and how relationships can cross over between these different characters. They describe this thing where you're basically going to have the big three characters who are this like sheriff guy, which I believe is voiced by Troy Baker, because of course he is, Nefertiti, and then another character that you can see right here, who's like the therapist of the ship that handles like all relationships and stuff. And the idea is that they have a relationship with the player character, and as you go through the game, your relationships can change with each of them based on your actions and decisions. So if you do something to cater to her, you might end up pissing off the sheriff dude, and then he'll either give you information that taints your view of her or skew your interpretation of her actions. or they might try to sabotage your relationship with her, you know, trying to just make things more dynamic. And the idea is that, again, in Ken Levine's description of it, it's built like narrative Legos, where each brick is effectively a different part of the story, and you can rearrange them in different ways to make your own story. So each person who plays the game has a different experience. Now, that sounds interesting. I'm not opposed to that concept. I still have questions though, because I listened to the extended interviews they did. I listened to all of it, every second of it. And it was like, he did this hour and 20-minute interview with Ryan McCaffrey. I was right. It was Ryan McCaffrey. And the Dorito Pope himself, Jeff Geoff Keighley. And they talked to them, and then the Friends Per Second podcast, they also interviewed him for an extended period. I've listened to it all. And at the end of that, I still really am not sure how this game is truly unique. Because anytime specifics would come up, naturally and understandably, Ken Levine didn't want to give specifics because it would spoil the game if you knew all the specifics of it. So I appreciate him not spoiling all those specifics. But at the same time, all that we got basically sounded like there were going to be 3 characters in the game, and they each sort of have a reputation system with the player based on your actions. And as you play through the game, you are going to like change your reputation with them. And if you have good reputation, you can take them to the end and the other guys get screwed. And if you have a bad reputation, they don't get taken to the end, but these other characters do. It's just not that clear if it's truly narrative Lego bricks or if it's like narrative pillars where you can pick one pillar for each run, where you partnered with this guy primarily, and then the next run you partner with her, and then with her, and each time is a different outcome or a different narrative flair, but it's really not that dynamic. And it comes with the territory of trying to have a really crazy, complicated narrative system, because anytime people want specifics, which they should, you can't really give it to them. It's the same thing with this, you know, if you're talking about what's another super narrative heavy game, like, I don't know, Detroit Become Human. If somebody's like, well, why is this really cool? What's something cool that happens as a result of your decisions in Detroit Become Human? You can give them specifics, but it's going to spoil potentially one of the coolest moments in the game if they were to take those same actions and end up with that same consequence. So you can't really be specific other than just being like, yeah, your decisions have consequences. So it's an inherently difficult game to be transparent with, just to be fully clear with it. It's an interesting idea, but after all of this, it's still not super precise what this narrative Lego thing even means. So if I pull up the transcript, dude, it's just glitching out today. YouTube's having problems. It just doesn't it doesn't want to pull up the transcript now. I swear. Come on, YouTube. Okay. Well, with all this though, I was going to try to find the exact moments he says narrative Lego, but this isn't working. Maybe if I swap over to my Opera browser, that'll work. Let's try that. But I mean, after all of this, do you guys have a clear idea of what this game is after the descriptions and ads and interviews and stuff that you've seen and heard? Do you feel like you understand what this game is even supposed to be? Because this is like the description of the narrative. I did it again. The narrative Lego that he makes. Okay,
that's what it's called. Yeah. And the metaphor is basically like Lego. It's you've got a bunch of these pre-crafted bricks, right? Yeah. And they're really well designed, and the bricks know how to communicate with each other. They know how to interface with each other. And this is this is the genius of it. But you can build. How many things can you build out of those bricks, right? So you have a bunch of handcrafted elements, but they come with them a set of rules based upon how they combine, so you can make almost anything.
And you're saying story, not just the actual architecture, right? It's like both pieces of it, right? It's like how there's a narrative.
Yeah. Or so taking the Lego metaphor, we started thinking, well, could we use handcrafted elements, but are not huge entire levels, but sub-elements like lines of speech, pieces of art, texture maps, encounters, loot, even the layout of the whole experience.
Yeah.
And make those out of modular chunks and then teach the game. We call it pseudo procedural because it's not like Minecraft where everything's being generated off a set of pure mathematical heuristics. You build all these smaller elements in the game, and then you teach the game how to make good levels, essentially,
And good story.
Yeah. And most importantly, reactive to what you do. So when you decide to go, I'm not doing that, I'm going all the way over here, then the game knows what to do. Because in Bioshock Infinite, the game just went and panicked and said, I can't do that. I can't do any of that. And so, but that was a major R&D task because.
So it sounds interesting, right? Like, okay. So the idea is that pretty much no matter what the player does, you can respond to it. The game can totally alter itself to react to that choice. And the example he brought up before this was that in Bioshock Infinite, like if you did something to upset Elizabeth, that was her name, right? Elizabeth? That sounds right. If you did something to upset her, in the real world, she might have been like, screw you, I'm leaving you. And run off and go off and try to solve her problems by herself without Booker's help. But the game couldn't work that way. They just couldn't make that happen. To have all these levels designed around both characters being present, but then all of a sudden now one of them is gone, it just can't respond to it properly. So his idea was to try and create systems that can respond to all of those dynamic events. So if you piss off this character or you do something really drastic to them or with them, then the rest of the game has like a cascading reactive effect to that decision and has serious consequences for each of those actions and decisions. It's a cool idea. But again, we've heard this many, many times. Like one of the best examples of old school AI stuff is the Radiant AI in Oblivion. And this was just really, really funny because this was something Todd Howard talked about in like 2005. Okay? 2005. No, this is like a clip of somebody testing it. Where's the original clip of Todd talking about it? It's probably in the making of Oblivion. Right here. And then this is our pro YouTuber strategy. Transcript, Control F. Or actually, they added a search bar. That's nice. Radiant. Right here.
Have in the game. We designed this system, Radiant AI, that allows the people in the world to react really intelligently, and they sort of have their own goals, so they can look at their environment around them and decide how they want to accomplish them.
Our NPCs exist no matter if you're there or not. They're doing what they're supposed to do. You can send a guy off to a dungeon to kill stuff, and you don't have to go with him. You go back to that dungeon, either he'll be dead or the things that he was supposed to kill will be dead. I mean, it will have happened whether you were there or not.
Like this guy, I can basically go up to him and say hi to him, and he'll greet me. He'll chat with me. His aggression.
And so they have all of this, like these crazy systems and different stats and AI systems and stuff. When you played the game, it just felt like a regular open world game. It didn't really feel that revolutionary or anything. But if you listen to the interviews and the marketing stuff before the game came out, you would have thought that was going to be like one of the most groundbreaking games of all time with specifically the AI systems that they had there. So these types of ideas and concepts in game development are super, super cool. We've heard them many times before. Many people have tried to do really reactive, intelligent dynamic systems within their games, but it's not very easy to pull off. Like it really, really is not. And you might have like a reactive system where maybe now the mission structure changes, or maybe now these secondary objectives don't trigger, maybe all of that could happen, but whether it's fun, whether it feels good is a different question entirely. Because like he just said, they don't use procedural systems entirely. It's like they're putting pieces of levels together in response to your decisions. But again, like a lot of games that try to piece together modular components, they don't retain the same quality level or feeling of quality compared to truly handcrafted games from beginning to end, especially on subsequent run-throughs, especially if you're talking about, you know, encounters that could start to grow repetitive. And that's something which I think is something worth bringing up. I mean, if we look at this, I don't know why that other video had a search, but this one doesn't. If we look at this and we do like repetitive right here he mentions it.
We didn't want the audience to pay a price for the pseudo proceduralism, like that they were getting a less interesting looking level or a very repetitive thing. And that's why we sort of use this hybrid model of we handcraft elements and then that are very handcrafted, but they're
we have
small
some beautiful
and they
cinematic
combine.
moments. Like there's that. I think we have footage of one of the ones where it's,
Classic kind of Bioshock caliber.
and Judas memories. So those are the crystal. So there's one moment where like you get some of her memories, you get to play with those, which are the e-ticket sort of big crazy moments. But then, as you said, with these moments of the big three, those levels, as you said, feel handcrafted. And as you said, I think there are things where posters change and other things like that. But then like the narrative also, as you said, I think is...
It has to be like, you know, when I was talking about Bioshock Infinite, the problem was the world couldn't heal itself. If we wanted the player to do something different, I don't want to go down this corridor. I'm going to go over here. It's like, the game would be like, no. So we had to, you know, I think, you know, if you're asking to bullet point the big differences, you know, I think in terms of the Bioshock fans, they're to get those big story moments. I'm sure, like, you know, you saw like the drop ship sequence and you try to go down to Proxima and you run into the asteroid field. You know, the very big moments, but then, and those are more bespoke, but then as you go onto the game, the story, it becomes massively reactive to you and massively dynamic, and you're going to have a very different experience, and you're going to have, but I think that we didn't want the player to pay the price for any of this. So that we wanted, what do people expect out of us? They expect a really detailed world that feels lived in, feels believable, feels purposeful, you know, like a society that's thought through, that it's not just like, oh, you know, the evil empire or overlords, blah, but how did this, you know, why did this sort of dark, fucked up world evolve? Like, was it just somebody was evil, or was there a series of necessities, you know, about life in space that led to this kind of terrible situation where you're at the bottom of the barrel of this culture?
So again, very interesting. You can tell he's thought about this a lot, maybe too much. And so it's really, it's an interesting concept. It's a really interesting concept. And here's kind of my broad feeling with most of this. There are promises being made. There are pitches being made. There are things that they are trying to do which are extremely lofty and will be very difficult to pull off. But this is a game coming from Ken Levine, a noted perfectionist, somebody who has regularly put out Game of the Year contenders or winners every time he releases a game. He's basically been given a decade and an open-ended budget by the publisher to do whatever he wants. And he's very happy and confident with what they have now. And we also are at a technological point where there's never been a better time to be able to pull off something like this. Now, that's true of literally every moment in human history. Every moment, you know, technically is a better moment or a more opportune moment to pull this off. But I think if anybody could manage this, it would probably be Ken Levine. It's just a question mark for me of the minutia of moment-to-moment gameplay. Does it grow repetitive? Are encounters repetitive? Is there enough variety to keep things interesting? Because again, his idea is that he wants every player to have a different experience. One of the naturally really positive things about that is that repetitious or rather repeated run-throughs become much more viable. You can play the game 5 times through and have a different story effectively and different gameplay experience every single time. That's super cool. But if each of the components are repetitive, that won't really matter. It'll still be boring and still get annoying to fight the same encounter 15 times. Or like if they have one movie theater block and it's a block or a modular section of the game that is a movie theater, and there are different like security guards in that movie theater space, and it has a door on the back side of it that you can go out to get to the next area, and in one run through that might go to an alley, and another run through that might just open up to space, whatever. It might lead to an aquarium, who knows. But they have each of these modular sections that they kind of piece together into a level based on your decisions and actions in the game. And maybe even some of it is slightly randomized. Okay, but if I run into that movie theater 5 times, it's probably going to feel like, okay, been there, done that. This is kind of annoying. And this is paired with a system that he described, at the outset, which was this idea with the main character who is responsible for all of this happening, for the ship collapsing. And every time the player character dies, they come back, are 3D printed into the world. And that's an opportunity to like level up, to change your loadout, to make upgrades if you need to, things like that. And I would also fully expect that this is probably the reset for the procedural system. So if you think of it like a roguelike game where each run things change once again, that's basically what's happening here. So it's an interesting idea, but there's still so many questions. There's still so many questions that I just don't know what's happening. Fearless Wolf, thank you for the 10 pounds. Games developers always remind me of bad used car salesmen when the car does like what all other cars can do, getting you from A to B. Or all that does matter is whether it gets you from A to B. All the rest is just gimmicks. Sometimes there are occasionally games with novel ideas or novel features and things. I do agree gimmicks tend to sell. Like, you remember with Death Stranding, the whole thing with Kojima. Kojima said that he had created an entire new genre. He was like, yeah, we have a new genre of game that I, Hideo Kojima, your god, have invented. And we got the game, and it's like, no, it's just like a UPS delivery driver simulator, and there's like collaboration between players, but that's even in like From Software games where you can leave notes for other players and stuff. Like, this is not that novel. This isn't that crazy. Yeah, it's the FedEx genre. So like it was a gimmick pitched as like a totally new genre, and it just didn't end up actually being the case. So I agree. Sometimes like people can focus on gimmicks, and that's the whole selling point. And people fail to ask whether it, like they're focused on the gimmick, and they forget to ask whether the gimmick is actually going to be fun or lead to things that are truly interesting. It's the same thing exactly with like Starfield, where it's 1,000 planets that can be explored. Cool. Is that even a good idea, though? And as we learned when we got the game, probably wasn't that great of an idea. It probably was a bad idea. But the gimmick idea was super cool. 1,000 planets. How could that not be awesome, right? So that can be a hiccup for sure. Yeah, Starfield, 1,000 load screens to explore. Exactly. So I love the idea of this, but I am still not sure how novel it is. He describes the big 3, which, as I mentioned, are like the cowboy guy, played by Troy Baker. There's Nefertiti, who's this character. Come on, subtitles. And famous biologist responsible for keeping people alive on the ship. Okay, and then the third character is, what's her name? Hope. Hope is her name, I think. Okay. So, and then Hope. So the big 3, and the idea is that they'll pop up on the ship as you explore it in these kind of dynamic situations where they'll just appear to you and have a conversation with you, say a few lines, and then things, shift and move based on your actions. And that's cool. All it reminds me of, does anybody know what I'm going to say? Does anyone know what I'm going to say? It reminds me of the Joker in Batman Arkham Knight. If you haven't played that game, you should. But basically what happens is that the Joker, as sort of a figment, the game's like a decade old. I feel like I can talk openly about it. The Joker, of course, is like a figment of Batman's imagination in the game. It's not physically there. So as you explore Gotham City, you'll just like zip up to the top of a rooftop and you'll just see the Joker sitting there like on a picnic blanket, drinking tea and eating snacks. And he'll just be like, "Oh, Bats, good to see you." And then you'll jump off and go do the rest of your thing. Or, you know, what was it? Killer Bat or Bat, not Batman. Man-Bat, I don't know, whatever his name is, that thing, when you are also zipping up to the top of a building. It's dynamic. It's not going to be the same building every time, but he'll actually pop out and scare you when you zip up to the top of just Man-Bat. It sounds made up, right? It's not Batman, it's Man-Bat. It's Man-Bear-Bat. But anyway, so this reminds me of that, where they're going to have dynamic encounters with these three characters. The only difference between this and Arkham Knight, as far as I can tell, is that the encounters, while dynamic and different for everybody, are going to be determined, and they're going to kind of pick from the list of 100 mini cutscenes or whatever. They're going to pick from that list based on your actions, and then play those dynamically as you explore the ship and do different things. Interesting. Not that crazy novel, but still interesting that you could have narrative exposition happening dynamically all over the place. But I think it's games like Starfield that have really jaded me on the concept of like procedural mechanics in games, full stop, that still try to be narrative. If you want to go procedural, cool, you can do some awesome stuff with procedural stuff. But when you try to still maintain the same fidelity and quality of hand-built levels and maps and stuff, usually it starts to fall apart and it doesn't work quite as well. And again, Starfield being a great example of Bethesda being known for handcrafted environments, and then they try to go procedural and still have, like he's saying here, still have handcrafted chunks, or in this case, in the case of Starfield, it was like with handcrafted bases or research bases and centers or caves and mining operations and stuff. Those were all handcrafted, but they were copy and pasted so often, and you ran into so many of them, or even the same one over and over again, that it just got stale and didn't feel truly unique or fun. So I get worried whenever I hear that somebody that's trying to maintain a certain cinematic or narrative quality is leaning into procedural systems. This could be the first time it's really done amazingly well in a game like this. And again, if anybody could pull it off, it would probably be Ken Levine. And with the budget that they have and the resources they have, I think they could potentially pull it off. But to me, like, this is an instance of an industry veteran who really knows what he's doing and knows what he's talking about, promising a lot. And whenever we're promised a lot, you guys know me, I get like a little skeptical. The red flags go a little bit, because when you overpromise, it's really easy to underdeliver. And Ken Levine also has a history of sometimes overpromising stuff. In his original reveals for BioShock Infinite, there was a good amount of overpromising. And the game that we got still ended up being phenomenal, but it wasn't really the same game that was initially revealed to press and media. So I'll be keeping an eye on this very closely, and I want this to be very good. I really do. And again, if anybody could pull this off, it would be Ken Levine. But whenever I hear an industry veteran start to make big, broad, sweeping promises of super ambitious mechanisms and mechanics and stuff, I just start to get a little bit more cautious and guarded, especially when there's not a lot of specifics that can be given. And I understand, like, Jeff is not here to push and prod. He's not here to interrogate. But none of them asked like particularly hard-hitting questions, and probably because, you know, they're one of like 5 people that were welcomed in to see this game early, and they don't want to burn that bridge or be rude or anything. I get that. It's an early look. They probably don't have that much to show off or discuss, but there are like a lot of big, weighty, lofty promises being made, and it's just surprising to hear not a lot of detail on it. The game looks really, really good in the clips that we've seen, but I still don't really understand how this will fit together in moment-to-moment gameplay. And that could be because they're keeping it close to their chest because it's so awesome and so amazing that you have to just experience it yourself. Or it could be that it's like just really complicated. It's hard to explain, and maybe that's it. Or it might be that, yeah, it does get kind of repetitive. So that is a thing, but we're just not going to really talk about it, you know? That could be it as well. I don't know. What do you guys think? What's your... Can you put the explanation in MS Paint so we can understand it better? So anyway, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of all of this? After what you've seen, after what you've heard about it, is this something that you are, dare I say, hyped about? Is this something you're keeping an eye on? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Let me see. Also, shout out to Cliffmaster. Thank you for the cheer. How's the thumb doing? It's good. It's still black and looks gross. I don't know. Maybe it'll pop off and the new nail will be underneath. I don't know. I'm just letting it do its thing. Just growing out slowly, but that's what we're doing. Let's see. And then Ezrom Gaming Live. Thank you for subbing with Prime. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Let's see. Grandpa Eyebrows. That's funny. Grandpa Eyebrows. Thank you for the 2. Let's see. IGN's video about Resident Evil 5 racism. I mean, I think it's really funny that they're like, it's... My understanding is they think that the game shouldn't be remade, or if it is remade, it should have a totally different like setting or things, because the zombies in that game were all African, and so you'd be fighting African zombies because it's in Africa, and they wanted to say that was racist or problematic or something. They gave it a 9 back in like 2005, so I'm like, why are we that upset about it? Like, okay. Or I don't know. I think it's kind of a silly reason to think that a game should be canceled. And I don't think Resident Evil fans will throw that big of a fit. I'm like, you know, like if you're going to play a game with it's set in like Eastern Europe, and so all of the zombies are Eastern Europeans, like that's fine. Okay, what if we set it in China or Japan or South America? Like at what point do we just not set games in those settings, but then also still complain about games being set or not being set in those settings because of a lack of variety and diversity? You know, it's just like, it just seems like a bit of a stretch to me. T-Wall, thank you also for the $1 super chat with the big ol' emoji face. Appreciate you. And Kenneth Fox, thank you for the gifted membership. Apparently all my alerts are muted. That's stupid. Let's see. Also, Russell and Silver Lightning, thank you for giving me a member. Russell, thank you for the super chat. Any idea what happened to the last night pixel art game? 6 years already, and it's like it just vanished into thin air. Yeah, I have no idea. I kind of remember. I remember that one. It's the one I'm thinking of. Let me just Google it. Oh yeah, I remember this. Who knows? Yeah, look at that. Really has been that long. Golly. Yeah, who knows? It could just be having trouble like finalizing, but yeah, they've been pretty much AFK for ages. I have no idea. I haven't heard anything, so we'll see. Let's see. Daniel, thank you for 11 months. Oh, baby. 11 months of membership. Should I get Dragon's Dogma 2 now or wait until the price goes down? PS5. What would you recommend? Honestly, on PS5, if you are okay with waiting, just wait for a couple more performance patches because it's still pretty... It chugs a good amount. The game's still very good, but I mean, if you've already waited a week or two, like just, I'd say wait a few more weeks. They'll issue some more patches, which will be worth it, I think. Astromath Online, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Appreciate you. And Indigo, thank you for the super chat as well. Doing my part for the great content. Did you see City Skylines 2 first post-launch DLC disaster? PC Gamer has a great article on it. I did not see that. Is it just a total disaster? It's a little funny because they've been struggling so hard to get like anything out for that game. So to see that they have like another hiccup is just crazy. They literally just needed to put a game out that was the original game plus some new bells and whistles, and it ran okay. Like that's all they had to do, and they couldn't do it. And it, man, it fried all of their goodwill. That's crazy. Yeah, the fan base is fuming. I'm somebody that was also excited for it. I was pumped at the idea of playing City Skylines 2. Like I love the original, but man, they kind of became exactly what they hated, and I think that that's the most damning thing. Like everybody played City Skylines because Sim City in like 2014 was such a train wreck, and so they were like the solution to that horrible problem. But then they just turned into it, and they released a broken, poorly optimized, poorly thought out mess, and now they're starting to look like they're just pumping out DLC for quick cash grabs. It's really it's kind of poetic in a lot of ways. I saw an article saying the show Shogun lacked diversity. I remember seeing one where they said that was it that show Vikings or Viking? They also were complaining that show lacked diversity, and it's like, it's about like Scandinavian Vikings. Like, yeah, they're all Scandinavian. What are you talking about? Or like, Shogun. It's like, I can't help but notice everybody in this is Japanese. It's like, yes. Be kind of weird if it if it didn't. Like, what? Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, you guys are just like, you're trying so hard to find things to be upset about that it just it diminishes the value of like the actual offenses that come up. Like there are actual instances where things are whitewashed or there are actual problems. But when you act like everything is a problem, even when it's like a historical a historical game or a historical show set in an actual place, like, come on, it diminishes the value of it. You guys said there was Suicide Squad previews that went up for season 1 content showcase. Oh, Jake. So Jacob, we might have an addendum to put on the video
here at Rocksteady as well.
Great to be here. Thank you, Derek.
Awesome. So to start off this show, I'm going to be talking to Jack and Johnny about our new playable character coming to Suicide Squad.
I guess, Jacob, just take a couple clips of this, of us like looking at this, and then we'll do a recap. I can film that separately, and we'll just stitch it onto the back end, if that works. Let me also check with Mr. Joraptor. Also, shout out to Sean. Jesus. Thank you for the very generous donation. Sean, appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate you. My goodness. Panic at the Disco Joker.
It's going to be the Joker, the clown prince of crime himself.
Shortly after that, I'm going to be talking to Sam to go into Joker's Elseworlds, the new environment that players will be able to get their hands on in Season 1. And then after that, I'll be talking to Adonis to go through some of the shiny new gear and mechanics that are coming up as well.
And after that, we're going to be taking a look at some of the Battle Pass and store content we have for our fashion fanatics out there. Some awesome new outfits coming to the game, as well as plenty of other options for customization as well.
And once that's all done, we've invited our top content creators to come in so they can show us what they can do with the brand new Joker and in the brand new Elseworld.
Plenty to
Plot twist, it's me. Can you imagine if I just show up in the video? You're like, wait, what? No, it's not me. They probably paid some streamers way too much to come in and play the game for an hour and then never touch it again. That was the really funny thing is I like when we saw the preview event and we're like, ooh, I wonder if Dr. Lupo and not Dr. Lupo, Shroud was the other one, and Tarek or something like that. I was like, I wonder if they're going to play the game at launch, and like they didn't ever touch it again. But they probably made like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for doing that couple of hour stream, and then they never touched the game again. And I'm like, that does more damage that somebody got early access to the game and did not make it part of their rotation or anything like that. That does a lot of damage, I think. So I think that's the big thing. Like,
look forward to in the show, and of course,
Brainiac's back for another round, and he's going funhouse on us. At least buy me dinner first. I want more! Time to paint this town purple. The sky's the limit on who I can kill next. Here's my punchline. I'll be messing up the suits when they're down. Hold my beer, guys. Abominable machine. Tremble. This apocalypse has got novelty. You're dead. Here comes the Goon Squad. I guess you'll fit right in.
okay.
welcome both Johnny and Jack to our brand new digs here in the Rocksteady studio, all Joker-fied up. But before we get into the brand new playable character himself, Jack, I want to get a little bit of an overview as to what we're going to be expecting from new playable characters when they hit each and every season.
The new characters, we have 4 new characters coming. Each one is kind of a completely new playable character with its own completely unique traversal mechanics, own unique traversal attacks, whole new talent tree, and even, new legendary items that play specifically with that character's playstyle. So on a gameplay level, I think players are going to really enjoy learning to master each of those characters. But then also on a narrative level, each of those characters is kind of the route into the Elseworld that you're kind of adventuring in that season. I think players are going to really enjoy.
I mean, my biggest frustration is just I don't think these Elseworlds are that compelling. Like, okay, we now have an Elseworld map that looks kind of vaguely Joker themed, and that's it. Like, that's the big new wave of content. It's still the same purple enemies. There's some new infusion enemies, so they're like green purple enemies, so they're purple and green now. I just don't think that that's enough. I can appreciate them trying to be transparent with this and showcasing it. That's cool, but
it's a bit more kind of aggressive and frantic and energetic. And he's got a kind of theatrical, almost like a performer energy, like a sort of vaudevillain type kind of energy that he brings to combat and to interaction with the rest of the squad. So yeah, he's coming in with a different perspective, and I think it'll be fun for players to see how he interacts with the squad, who obviously have history with his kind of, Prime Universe counterpart. So they have some preconceptions of him, some of which might be true, some of which prove to be different. So yeah, getting to learn that and getting to know about him, I think will be enjoyable for players.
And so speaking of preconceptions, obviously the Joker is an incredibly storied DC character at this point. And so when you're taking on a new version of him, as the writers have, I think, made a really compelling version of the Joker, how does that convert into gameplay, Johnny? How do you take this new version and build a traversal kit, a combat kit that fits in with the rest of the characters in the game?
Really just setting the world alight. And then we have Ringmaster, which is for the show-offs. Anyone out there who wants to spend more time in the air, killing things while airborne, looking fabulous while doing it, that is totally the style for them.
We maybe have a little bit more design space to get a bit more technical, a bit more of a higher skill ceiling for the combat and the traversal of our characters, which Joker, I mean, for me at least.
Squad Fashion, Battle Pass, and Store.
For this next section, I'm joined by Albert, and Jack is back again to take us through some of the awesome outfits that we have coming in this season. I've been taking a look, Albert, and I am absolutely loving what we have in store coming in the Battle Pass. So what can our players expect to see when Season 1 launches?
So the outfit family in the Battle Pass for Season 1 is Wayne Tech, and this will be available for Deadshot, for Harley Quinn, King Shark, and Joker. So we use Wayne Tech because it's such a staple in the Batman universe, and with Batman out of the way, we wondered, what if Lucius Fox made some cool outfit for our squad? We fantasized.
I mean, I just... Okay. Okay. I don't know, man. We're going to see tomorrow. It's available tomorrow. We're going to play it. We'll see. Which character do you think they accidentally reveal this season? I don't know. That's a great question. That's a fantastic question. Golly. Sean, thank you for the super chat, my friend. My pleasure, man. I left ya some new segment samples on Discord. Have finally finished my night shift, finished up night shift since January, and I'm going to post that stuff to you today. Have a great Easter break. Oh, it was wonderful, my friend. I'll go dig through that. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. And again, thank you for the very generous support. Appreciate you, my friend. At this point, I feel like this video is less for fans and more for shareholders. They're trying to gin up excitement and stuff, but it is an uphill battle. I'll tell you what. When players are already not that pumped about it. It's just right now there's 560 peak concurrent players. Earlier today when I checked, there was about 560. And you need more than that. You just do. You gotta have more. And maybe this does it, but if this doesn't get peak player counts up above probably 5,000 to 10,000, I just don't know how they could argue that this game is worth pouring more millions of dollars into. I just don't know how do you justify it? I think they should. I think they should support it for much longer. They should pour a year of support in, and then the game might have enough content to be worth $30. But as of right now, it's guys, it's just not the complete package. Charging $70 for this was, I think, the biggest blunder of all. If this was free to play, very compelling, I think. At $20, $30, even $40, more compelling. I just think at 70, it's such a low quality bar and also a low amount of content that it's really hard to justify. Sean, thank you, my friend. 5 gifteds. Welcome, G Mendez, T Wall, Jone, Hassan, and Grandpa Eyebrows. Welcome to the Red Flag family, my friends. Thank you. Appreciate you, Sean. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. If they have 435 right now. Oh, man. Oh, God. Luke, did you hear The Rock and Kevin Hart were leaked working on the new Far Cry game? Oh, Jesus Christ. Why is it that, all of these big, corporations think that normies love celebrities and love seeing, Kevin Hart and The Rock in a game they're playing? I genuinely don't understand it. I don't get it. It's not going to make me go and buy the game. It's not. Like, well, I wasn't going to get the new Far Cry, but I heard Kevin Hart has a few lines in it. Like, what? Who does that? I've never met somebody who is like that. I mean, even something like Cyberpunk that brought in Keanu Reeves, like, yeah, it turned into a meme because of the E3, like E3, you're breathtaking thing. So there was that. But even that, all of those people who played Cyberpunk were still going to buy it and play it. Like, let's be completely real. They were still going to buy it and play it. You know? It's just I don't think it moved the needle that much, you know. Idris Elba and Phantom Liberty. Yeah, but I think Discotheque, like, you would have still played Phantom Liberty and still bought it, even if it wasn't Idris Elba, even if it was somebody else. You know, I don't think that actually moved the needle that much. Yeah, it might like stir up a little bit of hype. Some people might talk about it, but I just don't think it's like, they act like bringing celebrities into games is going to be like, okay, well, now people will buy it. It's like, no. Yeah, like when they had Al Pacino, when they had, what was that other actor from Marvel? I don't remember his character's name, but he came on stage at the Game Awards and kept trying to like riff with the audience. It was so awkward. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to read it. Just wait, I'm going to read it. And then somebody's like, yeah, read it. He's like, I'm going to. Kept waiting for like the laughs to come in. It was so uncomfortable. It was so weird. Yeah. It was Falcon. Yeah, that sounds right. All of Death Stranding. Yeah. Well, let's be honest. I think at this point, most of Hideo Kojima's games are just an excuse for him to get to hang out with famous people, because his company will basically pay for their fees to be present. And so he can just hang out with famous actors and actresses, but then also be like, oh, well, but I'm working. So they're working for me. So they have to do what I say, and they respect me because I'm working, and they're working for me. So the whole thing is weirdly parasitic. Yeah. Gamers love voice actors more nowadays, but Jeff and Suits don't see that. Yeah, and I think also voice actors by their very nature are less recognizable and less like iconic in the same way as film actors or TV actors, because like you could see a voice actor who played your favorite character in any video game ever, but you might not actually recognize them as the actor. Whereas like a film star, you're like, oh no, that's The Rock, or oh no, that's Johnny Depp. Like you see them because you've seen them in all these films, so it's immediately recognizable. But yeah. Yeah, Luke, Young, yeah, bucks the trend. People don't want those games. Jesus. Oh, Young. Again, I think Young got a little screwed over in that one. I think he didn't deserve all the hate he got for it. I think it fit the meme too well, though, because he had previously said that Chris Pratt's performance as Mario sucked because it was just him doing his regular voice. And then when we heard his voice acting, it was just his voice. And so it's like, that's fine. You have a good voice. Yang has a good voice. I don't care what anyone said. But because he had previously criticized another actor for using just his voice, it was like, okay, well, this just makes it like, this makes you look bad, you know? It was too easy. It was a layup. And the fact that he was like doubling down on things on Twitter and like trying to argue against it, and he was blocking people who disagreed, like all of that kind of made it worse. So, yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do, everybody, I thought Jor was going to be on and ready in like 15 minutes ago, but I'm guessing our schedule got screwed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep trying to chase down Yang and see if we're doing the podcast. I guess keep an eye on the event page. If there's an event in like 5-10 minutes for half an hour, 45 minutes from now, then we'll do the podcast. But I'm not sure if he's actually if he's actually available. Oh, did I say Yong? I meant Joe Raptor. Not Yong. Daylight Savings Time? That was like a week ago, though. So I don't know. 9 p.m. regular time. Yeah, so that would be today. So I don't know. Joe Raptor is actually Yong, confirmed. Yeah, you've never seen them in the same room, have you? Didn't think about that. Okay, my friends. I'm going to tackle that. I'm going to try to find Jor, and hopefully we can do the podcast still today. Otherwise, I plan on streaming tomorrow the Suicide Squad Season 1, so you guys can... I was going to say look forward to that, but I'm not sure if, if that'll be that fun, but I guess we'll do that. Michael, thank you for the 10. I've spent 0 microtransactions in Dragon's Dogma 2, and the game has been a blast. I get the performance, but honestly, it's worth it. Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think I don't want to fall into the trap of demanding boycotts for every game, or for tons of games, because then I feel like boycotts lose their potency and meaning. I think some games, their microtransaction offenses are much more significant than others. In a game like a lot of Ubisoft open world games where they bloat it and then charge you a way to expedite XP generation, that's a problem because they're breaking the game and selling you the solution. In the case of Dragon's Dogma 2, the game is amazing without microtransactions, and if you buy microtransactions, they'll actually make the game worse, I feel. I still would rather they're not there, but the game is still very, very good. And if we just start demanding boycotts of every single game that has any sort of DLC launching alongside it, we're going to start to miss out on some of the best games ever, because these studios put that stuff in because the executives and corporate bigwigs are demanding it. And honestly, I would much rather they do it the way that Capcom did it with Dragon's Dogma 2 than the way Ubisoft tends to do it with in-game stores, with XP boosts and things like that. So that's just where I'm at. And if people disagree with it, that's fine. But I just don't think we should cancel and boycott every other game that launches because we're upset about something that they did to placate executives, you know? And they did it in Resident Evil 4 Remake too, and nobody complained about it. You're right. Like, I think we brought it up a couple times. People might have mentioned it, but it was not a scandal whatsoever. So it seems to me like some special pleading where it's like, well, I'm particularly upset about this case because it's not Resident Evil 4 and I really liked Resi 4. So I'm not going to call for a boycott of that game because then I'd have to boycott it, but I really want to play that. But this game I'm not that stoked on, so I'm fine with boycotting this one. It's like, okay, dude, dry up. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. You guys are wonderful. I love you all dearly. You are wonderful. I appreciate you. Hopefully I'll see you soon for the podcast. Otherwise, we might have to postpone it. But either way, I'll see you. Plan is tomorrow for Suicide Squad. I will need your strength to get through it. So I look forward to seeing you guys then. Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Keep an eye on the main channel. There's going to be a main channel video going up shortly. So keep an eye on that. Much love. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.